guests. I don't know if I don't see any guests, but hopefully maybe some will join us. So welcome to AM Lockport Toastmasters. Let's start with let's open with our inspiration. Mike Florio, do you have an inspiration for us?
Let me see him.
Okay.
He's coming on now. He's just hooking up his
He's
mic.
just arriving.
Okay. We'll give him a second. Are there any announcements? I have the picnic on the 27th at Merja Manor, and that's from 1 to 3:30-ish. The
It's the
Shakespeare on the
27th.
Park. What did I say?
You said the 26th.
Oh, can't read. Okay. It's clearly here, the 27th. Okay. Shakespeare in the Park is tomorrow night. And Kate and Eric will be there at 4:30 to greet you and find a seat together if that's what you so choose. And that's at, again, Delaware Park. Mike Florio, are you there?
Good morning. Yes, I am.
Good morning. Would you give us a word of wisdom?
Hello, Toastmasters. Every day is not good, but there is something good to find in every day. Every day is a new beginning, a chance to get things right, follow your dreams, and rewrite your story. Fellow Toastmasters.
I love it. Thank you very much. And we have a paper flag that I printed up because I couldn't find one. And Thomas doesn't have his famous flag background, so we will improvise. It's a little blurry, but just think of it blowing out in the wind there. The image is important, not the exact thing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and I will turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster.
Nancy, if I can interrupt you, it looks like we might have a guest this morning.
Oh, okay. It's not on my screen. Oh, Istaf. Istaf, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Am I on the right time? Because I'm from Hungary and I didn't know if this meeting starts at this time or I'm late, 1 hour late, or is just starting.
You are right on time.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Glad that you're here.
Hello, everyone. I saw this meeting on Facebook and it will be about books. And I like reading books very much. And that's why I joined.
Great. Glad you're here. And at the end of the meeting, we might ask you how you enjoyed yourself.
Okay, thank you.
And so we'll turn it over to our Toastmaster, Master Eric Schneider. Eric, yay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am, presiding officer. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It's good to be back with you all. After being on day shift for almost 3 months, I'm happy to be back. I can sleep in now a little bit and looking forward to the upcoming school year, which is not that far away. This morning, my meeting today is the theme of National Book Lovers Day. That was yesterday. I actually found that online because I was like, what can I do of a theme? So this was what I enjoy doing. I know this is one of Jackie's favorite things, one of the favorite holidays, right, Jackie? So today I love to tell you about how I love reading because now we have, cellular phones and we're always scrolling through stuff. So why not just turn off the TV, put the phone down, grab a book, and let's read. I have read some books, and I have some that I've been reading, like, thank you to Jackie. She gave me this book, the best love poems of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Jackie, thank you. I'm still reading this. It's one of the favorite poetry books I love so far. And, you know, I done Facebook poetry on Facebook Live during the pandemic. I was like, how can we calm ourselves down, trying to think on the positives, and what better yet than to read some poetry. So I may do some little poetry reading here and there during the meeting. And but first I'd like to get on to our job holders this morning with our WAG master, the one and only Mr. Phil Russell. Phil, what is our word of the day, and what is your job duties as WAG master this morning? Phil Russell.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, Istvan. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, I like it that way too. The correct pronunciation is Istvan. So it's
How about we-
Istvan. So it's
Yeah.
not Istvan, but Istvan. But I like Istvan too.
Istvan. Istvan. Very good. That's good to know. Well, fellow Toastmasters, our guest. Library. Library. Not library. Right, Dave? Back in college, my college freshman roommate was an English major. So he always made fun of us because somebody might pronounce it library. So he called it the book bush. I will look for the correct pronunciation of library, not the book bush. So remember, a library is a place where you go and store books or get books. It's a great place, a great resource. Library. Mr. Toastmaster. Oh, one more thing. I gotta check out, make sure ahs, ums, and all those other goofy things. And what's the other one? Grammarian. Oh yeah, I'm keen on grammar. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Bill, thank you very much. And you're always very keen on that too. Our quote master this morning is Nancy Ferry. Nancy, what is our quote of the day?
Well, I have a library of quotes that I keep on my phone and in little notebooks, and I found this one the other day. One of the many gifts that books bring readers is a connection to each other. When we share an affection for a writer, an author, or a story, we also have a better understanding of people unlike ourselves. Books cultivate empathy, and that's from Sarah Jessica Parker. And one more, life is like a book. Some chapters are sad, some happy, and some exciting. But if you never turn the page, you will never know what the next chapter holds.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Very good quotes. Our jester this morning is Les Robinson. Les, good morning. What's your jokes today? Make us laugh. Les Robinson.
My joke is kind of funny. I've traveled my entire life, and the word of the day library seems to be how you have to use it when you check in. Hotel services have gone way, way down. Everything is bad. And the new thing is, when you go to the hotel, make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 pillows in the room. Because the new thing at the hotel I was at, there is a worldwide pillow, towel, blanket, and sheet shortage. That's it. Just be careful.
Les, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our timer this morning stepping in for Thomas is Kate Orr. Kate, please explain your job this morning.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guest, Istvan. Is that how you say your name? I apologize. I came a little
Yes, yes.
late. Istvan.
Thank you.
Nice to see you today. Thank you, Eric, Mr. Toastmaster. Today, I have with me a library of colors in which I will time our table topics, impromptu speaking, and our speakers, our prepared speakers, and our evaluators. I have a green background. I have a yellow background or amber background and a red background. If you see red, wrap it up. The times are as follows for table topics participants. I always get this wrong. 1.5 to 2 minutes, right? Right? Yes. Hooray. I got it. You are guided to speak for 1.5 to 2 minutes with a 15-second buffer. Hooray. And then for the prepared speeches, they are typically 5 to 7 minutes, but they can range anywhere from 2 to 20, depending on the day. Typically 5 to 7 with the green light at 5. The amber or yellow light at 6 and the red at 7 with a 30-second buffer. And the evaluations after that are 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer also, just like the speakers. Oh my goodness. Now I've introduced it correctly. Let's see if I can follow through with my library of backgrounds and make it actually happen today. I will do my best in listening carefully and timing. And if whoever is Zoom master today can pin me, oh, it's probably Len. He will do it like the pro that he is. So I will be pinned next to the speaker. So watch for me if you're speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Our quiz master this morning, Marty Johnston. Marty, good morning.
Morning, Eric, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guest. As quiz master this morning, I will be carefully testing my own listening skills and jotting down a few noteworthy questions to see how well all of you were listening. And I'll present those at the end of the meeting. Not a whole library full of questions, but just a few, maybe a small book of questions. Thank you, Eric. Back to you.
Thank you, Marty. And I can't forget our general evaluator, live from the basement, is Steve Smith.
Thank you. We're not in the basement. We're out in the garage. This
looks like a basement.
Well, thank you. This is my man cave. Turn the camera, show you the bar, but that's not important this hour of the morning. Everything in Toastmasters is evaluated because that's how we learn, by getting constructive feedback on what we've done. All of us can improve. So therefore, my job today is to evaluate the evaluators and the Toastmaster and the whole meeting in general. And I will do so when called upon later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Now, before we get into table topics, back in April, there was a poet who came to Canisius, and I bought 3 of her poetry books. I don't know, some of you may heard of her. Her name is Joy Harjo, and she came to Canisius for her speaker lecture series, and I went because for my English courses, but I bought like 3 of her books, and she was a wonderful poet, and she was just magnificent. So that's still on my list to read before the summer ends. Hopefully I get to it. If not, then I can do it during the school year. But let's all raise our glass for a toast and say, here's to all the readers, to all the people who love books. Let's continue reading, and let's ditch our phones and just enjoy the world of books. Here. All right. It's our favorite portion of the meeting, table topics, and I would like to thank David Jones for stepping in and taking over table topics. David Jones, you have the Zoom lectern.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. My first book I ever read, or was basically forced to read, and I would literally cry, was my stepfather at the time. I was in junior high, maybe 7th grade, so not even a teenager yet. He made me read Dianetics by Ron L. Hubbard, who went on to start Scientology, but it was a kind of a motivational psychology book. And, as a 12-year-old or whatever, trying to read that was very difficult. And so it was just a bad experience for me. One of my first books I ever read. But, so today, make sure you go for green. Green is a minute and a half. And our word of the day is library, a book building, not a book bush. Dave Licata, are you available, sir? You're always available. Even if you have a role, you're available. So Dave, if you were to write a book about your life, what would the title be, and what would be the outline of the book of your life be?
Oh, well, David, you have thrown me a real tight curve inside. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess that was a baseball reference. But what indeed would the title be? I think the title would be Persistence. I've always admired people that never gave up. And I've given up. I really have given up some on a few instances. I have indeed given up, but I just sidestep it and maybe get back to it later when I have a problem. Now, my memories of the Lockport Library is where I was horrified because I didn't like books all that much. But we used to hang out in the young people section in the library after school. And Miss Stevens was the librarian. And she was quite cagey because she got me to admit that I might read science fiction. And she had a double laugh on me because, unknowns to me, the author was using a nom de plume, which was Andre Norton, but Andre Norton was a lady. So she got a big kick out of the fact that I was following very closely a lady author. And I really enjoyed those books. And I still remember the first one was called Galactic Derelict. But the outline of my life, never stop, never stop. I'm going to be 75 in November, and yet today I'm starting a new career, a new job. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to need your thoughts and prayers because today we start shooting that film that I'm in. I have really very little idea of what I'm getting into. I hope it doesn't turn into a fool's folly, but I will keep you posted. Now I got to look for Kate. Oh, Kate's got ready. Goodbye.
Thank you, Toastmaster Dave.
Yeah.
And Lynn, I believe you're available. Lynn, do you have a favorite book or a book that was turned into a movie? And what is that book and the movie? And what is the difference between the book and the movie that you observed? Because they're never the same.
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest. I'm hungry. I really enjoyed The Martian, having read it beforehand and then watching the movie. Naturally, you can't fit every detail of a book into the movie, but I thought it accurately conveyed the emotions, all the technology, all the challenges that the protagonist faced. In my library, I've been an Audible subscriber for about 15 years. I have quite a few books. I get one a month, basically one credit, but I've leaned toward mostly biographies and science fiction. My favorite author is a gentleman by the name of Daniel Suarez. I'm currently reading part 2 in a series of books he's doing about mining on asteroids and developing colonies in space. and around the moon, cislunar orbit. And the first book in the series was Delta V, and the current one is called Critical Mass. When I'm on a long road trip and the music's just not doing it, there's nothing like turning on my audiobook for a couple chapters. And these books can be pretty long. They can be 9 to 12 hours long when read out by a narrator on Audible. But I really enjoy the escapism, getting away from all the daily problems and putting my mind somewhere else while I'm driving, particularly. And that's it about my library. Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lynn. And let me see, I believe Sylvia. Either as a little girl, like maybe Nancy Drew, what is your favorite book series and why?
Well, thank you, Mr. Table Topics, for giving me this opportunity. Series, you did mention Nancy Drew, and I forgot all about Nancy Drew. Of all the books, I've started to think this morning, what books have I read? And I'm going to kind of go a little bit off. I like Len's question of between the books and the movies, and I made a mental list of books that I have read, and they were movies one time, and boy, there's a lot of them. And the one that comes to mind right away was my very first book, because, well, I won't say the very first books were the Dick and Jane books for the older people here growing up. And the only reason I read those is because my older sister, Andrea, would sit and read a lot, and she would eat black licorice, and I love black licorice. So I wanted to be like her. But one of the other ones, first ones I remember, it was in 4th, 5th grade, and now it's a movie. I see it's on television. They've been advertising it. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. The girl across the street that I grew up with, she got me into reading that one. And we went to the library to take out that book, and for me, and it was gone. I couldn't believe it. It's like, well, this is why I don't go to the library very often. The other ones were Amityville Horror. One day cleaning the house, I found Love Story. Andrea read that book, so I had to read it. And I could picture Ryan O'Neal in my head because his picture was on the cover. Bridges of Madison County. But the latest one, and it's not at the movies yet, I bought it the other day, matter of fact, and I'm going to sit down and read it, called The Bounty. And it's about a FBI agent and a criminal finding gold that was buried by the Nazis. So we'll see if that turns to a movie. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics.
And thank you, Toastmaster Sylvia. Kate, can we get a timers report from you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Table Topics Master. 2 of our Table Topics participants qualified. Dave did go over. He didn't see me pinned soon enough, and he went past the 15-second buffer by 14 seconds. So at 2:29, David, sorry about that. Len hit the mark at 1:48, and Sylvia, you needed the buffer today at 2:15. So thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. Did we do that right? Did I do it right?
Yeah.
We're on track. Thank you.
So as Mark would say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So you're saying. And Phil, how did we do with the word library?
Mr. Topics Master, we are not in the book bush territory. The reason we call it book bush, you have to understand that. Berry grows on a bush, not a tree. So we don't call it a book tree. We call it a book bush because of berries. For instance, right now, our blueberries are prospering in Western New York. And strawberries are just getting over the season. That's why we call it a book bush. All 3 qualified. And Dave won because he said it 3 times. Mr. Top.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Toastmaster Phil. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you very much, David. So there'll be a poll to cast your vote. Just a second. Now more from the Eric Library, right? Phil, did I get that right? Yes. I have this nice book here. I don't know if anybody can see it. I'm still reading this book. It's called Nobody Does It Better, Uncensored, Unauthorized Oral History of 007. And I'm still reading this book. It's a great one. And also, what amazed me too is it has a drink recipe to make a perfect martini. So if anybody's interested in a recipe for a bookmark for a martini, let me know. We can make it for New Year's Eve. All right, now is that time we get into our speaking portion of the meeting. Our first speaker this morning is Jill Roying, and she'll be evaluated by Jackie Kenny. Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be introducing Jill to you this morning. She's working on Connect with Your Audience as a project. It's going to help her connect with an unfamiliar audience when she happens to be speaking to people that she's not close friends with. And she has a number of skills that she wants to try for. She's going to be practicing that might be unfamiliar to her audience. It's a 5 to 7 minute speech, Madam Timer. So this morning we're going to hear from Jill. Just feed the birds. Jill Roaring giving us Just Feed the Birds. Jill.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Here, birdie, birdie. Here, birdie, birdie. I got food here for you. Come on, come feed, come to my food. No birds, stupid birds. I don't know how many of you out there feed the birds. I feed them quite heavily. And I used to actually sell a lot of bird feed, which is probably why I'm able to make the speech. But there's a lot more to feeding birds than just putting a bird feeder out there and hanging it and hoping they come and filling it with bird seed. Because if you put the wrong bird seed in, if you fill it up with this sort of stuff, that's called thrifty, and it's full of junk. It's full of milo and all kinds of seeds that the birds really don't care for, at least not the songbirds. They'll just put it in, you put it in the feeder, and they'll just scratch it out, looking for the good stuff in there, which there isn't very much. And you may have bought a 20-pound bag at a bargain price of $9, but you know what? You only got about 5 pounds of useful feed. So $9 for a 5-pound bag isn't all that much of a bargain. Although that particular feed does have its purpose, which is why I have it. I put it in the feeders that are prone to squirrels and deer predation. They eat a lot. They're messy. They spread it all over. Fortunately, they do come down and cleaned it up off the ground mostly. But I don't want to feed the deer the $25 for 20-pound bird feed. Or the $35 for 20-pound birdseed. That's what this is. This is a mix called fruit and berry. Got lots of sunflower in it, black oil sunflower. Got safflower in it, which squirrels supposedly do not like, although they still like the other stuff. Got dried fruits and berries in it. Got some peanuts. Yeah, Steve says it sounds good. The birds do love this, and it draws in the pretty feeder birds. Of course, I don't put it in that feeder I first showed you. I put it in a feeder like this. It has a lot more restriction. They can't just spray it out. It lasts a lot longer. At that price, it better. However, there are other specialty birds that you want to get too. Things like woodpeckers, like suet cakes. I didn't put a suet cake here in front of me. I forgot to grab one. But suet cakes are little blocks of fat that's been cooked down some to preserve it. And usually it has some seeds mixed into it. And you put it in a wire feed or something like this. Thank you, Steve. And you hang that. And that's going to draw the woodpeckers. Lots of woodpeckers. We have gotten to the point that we have 6 different kinds of woodpeckers coming into our yard here, which is incredible. Another type of feed you can use is just plain old ordinary black oil sunflower. Simple to use, goes in almost all feeders, except for what's called the Niger seed feeder, which has real little bitty holes because the seed is real fine. And it draws in most birds. But again, the squirrels love it. They will inhale it. The chipmunks come to the feeder and they fill up their little pouches full of it and they take it to their nest. And I'm guessing they eat it all winter, but I'm not sure. But they come out again in the spring and they seem pretty healthy, so they must have. Thank you for eating all my bird seed all winter, birds. And there's other types of feeders. Hummingbird feeders. You put a nectar in here. Mixer of, you can buy a pre-mixed. You can buy a mix that you mix with water yourself. Or you can just make a sugar water mix of 1 part sugar to 4 parts water. The hummingbirds put their little beaks in the little holes there and they suck it down. And we have hummingbirds here in the yard like you wouldn't believe. Well, we know we have at least 2, but we're guessing there's more, but the most we've ever seen at one time is 2. So that only classifies as 2, unfortunately. But the good seeds, they bring in a lot of the pretty birds, the titmice, the chickadees, goldfinches. Everybody loves goldfinches. And woodpeckers, like I said. Unfortunately, during certain times of the year, we also get the ugly birds, the ones that people complain about getting when they put out the bad feed, the grackles, the starlings, the blackbirds. You're going to get them for a while. Live with it. That's all I got to say about that one. Hope they don't eat you out of house and home while they're doing it. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Just go feed the birds.
Thank you very much, Jill. Our second speaker this morning is Mark Campos, and his evaluator this morning is Mike Licata. Mike, can you explain what Mark is going to be speaking about today?
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest this morning. Mark is speaking out of the Path Engaging Humor. He is doing level 2, Know Your Sense of Humor.
The purpose of the speech is to begin developing a collection of humorous stories and to present a speech that includes humor. Mr. Timer or Madam Timer, the time is 5 to 7 minutes, and I believe you have his title, Eric, correct?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Mike. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, please help me in welcoming Mark Campos to the Zoom lectern with his title, Guys Weekend. Guys Weekend, Mark Campos.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guest, Istvan. Welcome. About 11 years ago, a tradition was born. As I shared with you in a previous speech, I'm lucky enough to live on a street where a lot of us are friends and we hang out together. So I started taking these friends of mine, the guys on my street, my neighbors, down to summer place that my wife and I had. And thus Guys Weekend was born. And I'm delivering this speech today because the 2023 edition of Guys Weekend took place just last weekend. We call the Guys Weekend lacking creativity. Our wives have other names for it, none of which are really suitable for this meeting, but we'll let those go. So back in 2012, it started out, maybe about 6 of us. We headed down to our place, and at the time, it was a camper that we kept at a campground at a beach campground on Lake Erie. It was on the Seneca Nation reservation, and we had a lot of fun there. And really all it was about, the primary objective were to eat and drink like Vikings, to hang out on the beach, play some cornhole, and above all else, to torture each other relentlessly. If you were foolish enough to say or do something even remotely stupid, it would be immortalized not only for that weekend, but probably for all time. Any screw up gets added to the library for future reference to be thrown right back at you. But even if you don't do anything stupid, even if you're just minding your own business, it's very easy to become a target. For example, one of my neighbors is a pretty hairy guy, tends to like to wear cut-off shirts, and there's just hair all over the place. So invariably, every Guys Weekend, there were just numerous sweater jokes like, Chris, it's 85 degrees out. When are you taking the sweater off? You know, immature things like that. And we stayed at the campground through 2017. We started to have like different elements added to it, but was lucky enough to buy a jet ski in 2016. So we would mess around with that a little bit. But one of the more memorable Guys Weekends at the campground involved just an odd coincidence where the campground always had a Halloween party that they would hold in the summertime. It fell on the very same weekend as Guys Weekend. Well, one of the campers was dressed up as a clown, pretty good looking clown. One of my buddies made the mistake of sharing that clowns really creep him out, and he's a little bit afraid of them. Well, at that point, it was on. We tortured this guy relentlessly. We basically gave the clown beers to just jump up and down next to my buddy and torture him all night long. It was priceless. In 2018, we sold the camper, and we were lucky enough to buy a cottage down at Sunset Bay, which I've shared with all of you in another speech not too long ago. And Sunset Bay, for you locals, added an entirely new dimension to Guys Weekend because, as the locals know, it's a pretty fun place. And now we add into the equation multiple bars, all of which are within walking distance. That adds a lot of fun as well. So now happy hours were in play. Buy one, get one at the bar. A lot of fun with that. Some late night trips to the bar, which are always a very, very bad idea because there are lapses in judgment where someone invariably thinks it's a great idea to order rounds of shots. It tends not to end well. But sometimes there's also bands playing, which is kind of cool. We'll go down there and have a good time just watching bands and mess around. Every year, the tradition seems to grow a little bit more. There's more and more guys there. It gets more elaborate. It used to start on Friday night, but now it starts even earlier, like say Friday morning, and incorporates now rounds of golf and things like that. Among the more memorable guys' weekends in recent years, back in 2022, my future brother-in-law joined us. I invited him to hang out with myself and my neighbors, and something out of the hangover, he went missing. We couldn't find him on Saturday morning, but fellow Toastmasters, that will have to be its own speech. That would take us some time to go through that one, but I will deliver that someday. Now let's talk about 2023. This was a carefully orchestrated event. It started out with 2 foursomes playing golf on Friday morning, timed perfectly to conclude, where we could have a little snack and then head right to happy hour from 4 to 6. Again, buy one, get one drinks, and then we got into the food. And over the course of the weekend, here's what we ate. We had clams, we had wings, we had sausage, we had hot dogs, we had some bacon wrapped smoked appetizer that my neighbor down there prepared for us. Steak, an entire strip loin that we calculated came out to about 24-ounce massive steaks. They were delicious. Some sweet corn and some tuna mac salad, among other things. There were some sweets, some cookies, things like that as well. On Sunday morning, I texted my wife and I told her that we had successfully consumed 500 clams over the course of the weekend. I received a one-word answer to that text message: gross. And with regard to my wife, she's a really great sport about all this. Our mind tends to race with thoughts of what could be going on down there, picturing a bunch of drunk men, primarily using the bathroom. That's her hang up. So I have to be extra good, make sure I clean up, destroy all the evidence, make sure it was apparent that nobody was there. But ultimately, it's a good time, but it's an awful lot of work because I take it upon myself. I do all the shopping. I make everyone contribute to it. I want it to be fair and equitable. I don't want anyone to feel screwed. I want them to have a good time. But I really do need to delegate going forward. But I said to my wife in the lead up to this, I said, I'm getting stressed. I've got to go to this store, that store, the other store. I just don't think I can do this anymore. I think next year we're not doing it. To which she just gave me the look and she goes, bull loney, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Now you're making me hungry. Now I want food. Our final speaker today is Tracy Farrell and her dog. No, just kidding. Her evaluator is Carol Ann. Carol Ann, would you explain what Tracy's going to be speaking about today? Carol Ann, you're on mute.
Yes, I will. I wanted to point out, you can probably on Zoom see that I have a heart on my shirt, but you can't really see the rest. And it says, I love, and there's sketches of books on the bottom. So I figured that was the appropriate shirt for the day. Okay, Tracy is speaking on engaging humor, lessons learned, and I'm not sure what else about the project to say. However, it is a 5 to 7 minute for the timer. And Eric, do you have her title?
Yes, I do. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, please help me in welcoming Tracy Farrell with her speech title, If These Ears Could Talk. If These Ears Could Talk, Tracy Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. And I just want to clarify to the timer, it is 8 to 10 minutes. So let me begin. Fellow Toastmasters, you just met my dog. He's taking off. However, if anybody in Toastmasters know me by now, and if you don't, you should know that I am the tightest wound up person in the world. And this has probably been exasperated over the last couple of years due to my job. And as a result, it's really affected my leadership qualities. So to overcome this issue, I want to introduce you to man's best friend. You just saw him. He jumped off the couch because he knows he's not supposed to be up here. But in my house, we call that best friend Riley. He was really a rescue dog from about 5 years ago. And if you noticed, he has one ear up and one ear flopping down all the time. I think it's probably because he was injured before we received him. But in my world, I like to say he is sitting there listening and hanging on to every word I have to say. And boy, can I tell you, this dog has heard a lot. Now, Riley's really adept to government affairs because on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, he accompanies Mike to the town of Heartland. Once he gets there, Mike will go into his office and do his daily grind. But then Riley begins his daily routine, and he has to go from office to office to office. And every office he visits, he gets a treat. That manages to keep the stress levels down to a minimum down in the town of Heartland. And as a reward, they've given him his own employee badge. I kind of think it's an honor for him because Mike doesn't even have an employee badge. So Riley must be special. He's so special, it kind of hit me. The town of Heartland is onto something. So I want to give you the lessons I've learned from Riley Dog. The first one is greet everybody with enthusiasm. When people walk into the town of Heartland, they're greeted with the happiest little dog in the world. And I can tell you, when you enter into a town hall or even city hall, you're usually not going there because you're happy. You're going there because you're paying taxes, you're buying a permit, lodging some kind of complaint. So when Riley comes up to greet you with his tail wagging away, it kind of just puts a smile on your face and eases that tension. Riley's the buffer between an agitated customer and some unsuspecting clerk that's really going to get an earful. The second lesson I've learned is don't hold grudges or play tug of war games. Sometimes at my work, I have to sit and listen to people come in and go on and on about how high their taxes are. And I can complain and say, look, I'm not in charge of your taxes. I only do your assessment. But it comes to no avail. They just go on and become more agitated. So I kind of learned just sit back and listen, no matter how unreasonable they are. And people who come in to unload, if they just sit there without interruption, they kind of feel better at the end of the day. And if I acknowledge that their feelings are okay, they leave happy. Something I learned from Riley Dog. The third lesson is be loyal. I know after work, coming home, listening to everything all day long, I just want to come home, throw everything onto my couch and run out into my garden. When I'm out there, I like to spout off everything that's wrong with the world, with the city, my office, basically just life in general. And actually, Riley's always happy to come out and be my companion as I'm doing it. And every once in a while, I can just sit down, yank out a weed, and that's Riley's cue. He'll jump up, lick my face, and everything's all better. Some people might think that's gross. I love it when he licks my face. So no matter how unreasonable I can be, he's always happy to accompany me out into the garden. The fourth thing is get out there, take a walk every day, and get some fresh air. Okay, so I'm not hanging my head out the window with my tongue hanging out, but I do like to get outside and get some fresh air. So walking on my lunch hour every day and just taking a break from the office, it's kind of a chance to clear the cobwebs out of my head and get a little bit of exercise at the same time. Riley, he prefers walking along the canal, and he loves doing that just about every morning. But my personal preference is to walk down Main Street. I love to people watch. And it also gives me a chance to look at all the shops along the way and see what's new. Sometimes, in fact, most times on my lunch hour, I really have to convince myself to get up off my desk and get out and walk. But I can promise you, Riley, every time we say, let's go for a walk, he's ready to go. The final lesson I've learned from Riley is to live in the moment. Did somebody say squirrel? Oh yeah, there goes Riley running down that pathway. Sometimes I get so caught up in life and what I'm doing, my routines. You kind of know them. Get up, go to work, eat, repeat. Those are some of the times that I miss those fleeting moments when my friends will call and just say, hey, let's go out. Or even just take a long weekend or a jaunt down to the cottage. Sometimes I'm prepared for you, Eric, getting caught up on my book club, going down to the library, and just reading a book. Those are the things I'm missing out of. Instead of claiming I don't have time to do these things, I need to start chasing squirrels and enjoy that new restaurant when my friends call, just to get out and join them. So, everyone, I know I'm crazy in love with my dog, and I know he's crazy in love with me. And I also know that what Johnny Depp has said is true, that the only creatures that are evolved enough to convey pure love are dogs and infants. So, fellow Toastmasters, let's take a clue from our dogs and let's learn those lessons. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Madam Timer, can you give us a timer's report on our three speakers?
Sure can, Eric. Thank you so much. All three qualified today. Jill at 6:40, Mark at 6:58, and Tracy at 7:55. So 5 seconds short of her goal. She qualifies with the buffer. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kate. Please catch your vote for Jill, Mark, or Tracy. Now, before we get into the evaluation portion of the meeting, I would like to read an excerpt from the Best Loved Poems of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis with a poem from Robert Frost, who's also one of my favorite poets. And I would like to read this one really quick. It's called Fireflies in the Garden. And it says, here comes real stars to fill the upper skies. And here on earth come emulating flies, that though they never equal stars in size, and they were never really stars at heart, achieve at times a very star-like start, only of course they can't sustain the part. So I just wanted to do a little poetry reading this morning to move right along into our evaluators. Jackie, are you ready to evaluate Jill's speech?
I am, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right.
Thank you for that little selection. That was very nice. I've spent a lot of time in our library in Lockport, and we have a beautiful structure and wonderful librarians. So all of you should be stopping in. I was very honored to be Jill's evaluator this morning and really enjoyed all of the information she provided in that speech. She's obviously made herself very knowledgeable about birds, kinds of birds, food those birds need, and ways to deal with them in the yard and maybe keep down how much is being poached by all the little critters that also live out there. You had good eye contact, Jill. You had a lot of information on the cost and the different types of feed. And I'm sure that most of us were learning new things because it was very informative. I liked some of the fun gestures, your facial expressions, your full cheeks when you were telling us about the chipmunks. They're so cute, but they're awfully invasive. The recipe for the hummingbird feeder was very welcome. You can certainly save a lot of money by mixing something up yourself rather than relying on something that's commercially available. One thing I would suggest that you be a little more careful of. This speech was intended to prep you for speaking to an audience that you're not familiar with, who is also not familiar with you. So I would suggest not making asides to Steve. Pretend he's not in the room. If you need to get rid of something, just drop it. Don't bend over and disappear from camera range. It creates a really awkward pause in your speaking flow. Focus on your material, so don't be distracted by anyone who's in the room. Your audience doesn't know Steve, supposedly, and they're not going to want to share information about him when you're speaking. So just kind of gloss over anybody else who's sharing your space. I think you did a good job setting yourself up for this speech. You had a poster in the background. You stood, so your gestures were all very visible to us. We had a good experience watching you during this speech. So thank you again, Jill, for all the information you gave us this morning. And I think everybody will want to feed the birds now. Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
May I interrupt?
Yes, go ahead, Kate.
I am having technical difficulties, and Jackie, I deeply apologize and hope I wasn't distracting you by flashing green and yellow items in front of the screen, and then I couldn't find anything red, so I was making an X. You qualified. However, I cannot get my background suddenly to work. My internet is unstable because of the thunderstorm. That is all I can guess. I've never seen this happen in any Zoom meetings for years, that suddenly they're not working. Is Len on deck by chance, or is Mark or somebody who is a seasoned timer who has backgrounds that work that could time the other two evaluators?
Len's on. Len's on.
Is that something you're okay with? Yes, he's, I guess, saying yes. Thank you so much. I might have to sign out and sign back in again.
I can do it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Back to you.
All right. Thank you for the update, Kate. Our second evaluator, evaluating Mark Campos, is Mike Licata. Mike, you're on deck.
Good morning, Madam Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our guest, and especially Mark. Mark, I think you did a great job this morning. I definitely, the tremendous detail in the speech. You brought us along to these guys' weekends. You also did a tremendous job of explaining how everything came about. And I have to give you a lot of credit for being even simple friends with your neighbors, because in this day and age with neighbors and everything like that, it's nice to see that we can still be friends with our neighbors locally, and there's not some suspicion after all the turnover that's possible in Lockport. Now, I found it very, very hard to find holes in a lot of the speeches, one of the first things I thought of is you could have brought pictures, but then when you finish your speech detailing how you talked to your wife after the weekend, video and photo evidence is probably not a good idea for a number of reasons. As you outlined in your speech, your buddies probably do not want photo evidence of the weekend. So I also have to give you a credit too for including your brother-in-law in 2022 or your future brother-in-law in 2022, and to kind of put him through the ringer in the weekend. So I have to give you a lot of credit. It was very humorous. It was a very humorous speech. The detail was tremendous, and it was really well done. And I'm very much looking forward to the hangover speech that you can give in the future. So congratulations on developing the thread for the next speech. I think you did a great job, and good luck going forward in this path, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mike. Our third and final evaluator this morning is Carol Ann Halstead, evaluating Tracy Farrell. Carol Ann.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our guest, and especially Tracy. This speech was very well done. We got to meet the subject of the speech, Riley, at the beginning, but he didn't remain next to her, which could have been a distraction. Tracy has good eye contact and certainly did have humor in her speech, plus the lessons that she learned, we've also learned today, because many of us probably have pets and are familiar how dogs are loyal, but to have the dogs actually teach us to be better people was a very interesting aspect. Tracy always seems very comfortable. She was well-centered and made eye contact. And she just seems relaxed and enjoys the speeches. And again, the things that she learned, we may not have thought about before, that dogs, as we should be, are very accepting, and they listen without comment, that maybe we should do more of. Tracy could have had maybe just a little more vocal variety, but she did show enthusiasm, and it was a very enjoyable speech and very well done, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Carol Ann. And thank you to all of our evaluators and speakers on a job well done this morning. And I will turn back to our timer for our timers report. Kay, how did our three evaluators do?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and deep thanks to Mark and Len for jumping in. From all appearances, I believe all three qualified. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. I don't have specifics. I think that's all we need to know.
Right. Thank you very much, Kay, and thank you to Len and Mark for helping out with the timing light. So please cast your vote for Jackie, Mike, or Carol Ann. I would like to turn things over to our general evaluator, the one and only Steve Smith. Steve, give us your evaluation report, and if you want to call up upon the reports, you may do so. Or if you want me to, I'd be happy as well. Please help me welcome Steve Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Our three evaluators today did a good job, and it was, I think, actually Mike Licata who pointed out that it is difficult to evaluate experienced Toastmasters. However, all three of them did find room for improvement for the speakers, which is a good thing. We can all improve, as I said earlier. Now, Carol Ann mentioned when Tracy brought her dog out, he decided to leave early. That was totally beyond her control. There is an old showbiz adage, never work with kids or animals. And that's kind of why, because you can't control them. But actually, it was almost like the dog left on cue. So I didn't know if that was planned or not when she did that. It was a nice touch. But I'm not here to evaluate the speakers. I'm here to evaluate the evaluators. I think they all did a good job of pointing out the good points of each speaker, what they did well, and finding a few places where they could improve things. As far as the meeting in general, I thought it was a great topic, talking about libraries. Now, I had just a little aside here. When in table topics, when the question was brought up, a book that was made into a movie. Well, when I heard that, immediately what jumped to mind for me, if anybody that knows me, is Dracula. That has been made into movies way back in the silent Nosferatu in 1921, up to right now. They have just recently released another version called the Demeter, and that's only about one small facet of the book where he was on the ship from Transylvania to England. Which brings up another point. Dracula, the book, has never been filmed because the book is so expansive, it's almost impossible to cover all of that material in one movie. I could make a speech about that, so I won't dwell on it. The meeting went well. Everything seemed to be organized. No glitches, no holes to fill. He took care of everything. We're right on track, and I believe, yes, we're on track very well time-wise. So, and I applaud Eric for choosing a very interesting topic and making it interesting by sharing his love of books, poetry. My favorite poetry tends to be the 5-line variety, which I can't use any of them here. So let's move on to the reports. I will do them if you wish. There's only a few people to call on. So let's call on our quizmaster, Marty, first. Marty, have you got some questions for us?
Thank you, Steve. Fellow Toastmasters. First question. During table topics, what was the title Dave Licata would give a book that was written about him? What would the title be?
Persistence.
Persistence, right on. In table topics.
Oh, we lost you, Marty.
Marty, you're on mute.
I accidentally pressed mute. Okay, thank you, Eric. When Len Thornton was speaking in table topics, what did he say the author's name of the book that he is currently reading? Or one of the audio books?
Daniel
Anyone?
Suarez.
Right on, Daniel Suarez. The table topics, Sylvia said that one of her first favorite books in a series was what? There are two names.
Dick and Jane.
Right on, Dick and Jane. Okay. What are the two types of birds that Jill does not mind coming to her bird feeder?
Woodpeckers.
Hummingbirds.
Woodpecker. There were two other ones that I jotted down. One starts with a C and one starts with a G.
Oh, doesn't want or does want? Doesn't want grackles.
How about chickadees and goldfinch? All right. Mark Campos, when he was speaking, he said that they tortured one of his neighbors at the guys' weekend with what character?
The clown.
The clown. What is the name of Tracy Farrell's dog?
Riley.
Riley, right? And last but not least, who was the author that Eric quoted this morning when he was read the speech, what he read after the prepared speeches? What was the author's name?
Yeah.
Robert Frost.
Robert Frost, right on. Okay, back to you, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you.
You tried to shut me up here. You know, that's a difficult job. Okay. I think our only other person we need to call on, the one with a big job, Phil Russell. I'll do our grammar, do our ahs and ums, and finally the word of the day, if you would, please.
Thank you for alerting me to unmuting myself. Wow. We like the book push. It's amazing. There was only 1, 2, 3 people that didn't use library. So that was really good. That worked out well. Jackie, I am sure you are pleased because her daughter being a librarian. Now, everyone used it. And yes, let's see, who won the star? It looks like Dave Licata won the star of saying it the most times. Now, as far as the ah master, well, we have Eric. You had an ah. Jackie, 2 ums. Mike Licata, a so. Now we get on to our grammar. It's mostly in the pronunciation. Eric, fur as opposed to for. For something as opposed to fur. Fur is on the animals. That's good. I butcher these things all the time myself, so I about it a lot. Let's see now. We have down here Jackie and an I had that. Oh, Jill used a little bit of like stuff and junk, and the worst of them all, gotta. Then we go on to my Mark Campos. Was versus were. Would have worked better with was. Then we go on to Carol Ann. You won the contest more than 5. And Tracy, kinda. Kinda was her favorite word of the day. But library worked out. And all of you were excellent in using it properly in your speaking engagements. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Phil. I believe that concludes my portion of the meeting. I'll turn it back to Eric to close out the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. I would like to ask our guest, Esteban, if he would like to tell us how he enjoyed our meeting this morning.
I enjoyed it very much. I think it was awesome. And especially enjoyed because all of the speakers were entertaining or informational. So I could learn things. For example, how to feed properly the birds, and you gave me kind of good book recommendations. Also, there were a few books I'm gonna look out for them and check them. So I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I could be here. And if by chance one of you come to Hungary, then please visit Budapest Toastmaster. That's my club. So you're very welcome if you come here, if you visit us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you want to put your club information into the chat, we'd be more than happy to come and visit.
But basically, we have meetings in person only, not online.
Oh, you're not.
So that's a that makes things a bit more difficult. But I'm gonna put it, and who knows? Maybe you visit Europe one day,
All right.
because we had guests. Even last year, we had a few guests from the United States, and we also have native speakers. So some people came to Europe and they decided to stay forever, or I don't know, for a longer time. So that's how we have three native speakers, basically, one from Canada and two other from United States.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and hope you can join us again real soon.
We meet in person.
Yeah, in person would be great, would be fantastic.
I'm on my way. Goodbye, Lockport. Gee, that's great. Good for you.
All right. Well, any further delay, let's get into our winners this morning. Our best table topics is Sylvia Baptiste. Congratulations to Sylvia. Our best evaluator this morning is Mom. Congratulations, Jackie, on best evaluator. And our best speaker who had to leave, our Toastmaster for next week, is Tracy Farrow. So congratulations to Tracy as our best speaker. And her theme next week is Summer Bucket List.
Ooh.
So that's the meeting theme for next week. And with that, I will turn things over to our chapter president, Kate Orr, to close out the meeting. Kate?
Thank you, Eric, for a fantastic meeting this morning. And thank you for opening as officer. And it looks like Istvan put his information into our chat so we can visit him at least on Facebook, if not in person. Istvan, 20 years ago, I was in Budapest and it was amazing. It was so beautiful. And I was with some girlfriends and we crossed so many bridges back and forth from city to city. Is it still Buda is the one side and Pest is the old city on the other side? Buda is more modern. I mean, that's what it was 20 years ago, but I'm not sure what has changed over decades in time.
It's still that way, but actually it changed a little bit because Pest is kind of party side. So on Pest side there are a lot of bars and a lot of parties, and Buda side is calmer side and more green. So
Okay,
both sides has its own pros. Yeah.
I bet we all have to get back there. You probably were barely even born when I visited, and that was a long time ago. But there were a lot of bars on the Pest side. We stayed in a hostel on the Pest side, and wow, it was crazy. We can't talk about those things during the meeting.
Inform our guests that we're only 20 miles from Niagara Falls.
Yes,
and everybody wants to see Niagara Falls, and we'll have a tour like you never had before.
Well,
We'll give him the royal treatment.
Once we close our meeting, anyone is welcome to stick around and stay for our post toasties so we can chit chat. You can plan your trip to New York and Canada, right where we live on the border of Canada, beautiful Niagara Falls. And so I had just two quick announcements about the upcoming events. Thank you, Nancy, for announcing those. Maybe it was Nancy who opened the meeting. And is she already gone today? Everybody
Nancy opened up the meeting.
Lost 6 folks already to work, and we're even ending early, but it's a busy day, I bet. Thank you.
I have to talk to Steve Smith.
We have the summer picnic in 2 weeks at Margot's at the winery. If you have questions, let us know. We've been talking about it all summer. It's the annual picnic that Sunday. Group photo at 2:30. So try to be there at least at 2:30 before and after if you'd like. And then tomorrow is Shakespeare in the Park with Romeo and Juliet. I think 6 to 8 of us will be there or more. We are carpooling a little earlier. The show doesn't start till a little after 7 p.m. But if anybody is interested in carpooling out of Lockport, we'll probably leave around 3:30 and pick up a picnic at Niagara Produce. All righty.
Anybody, if I could interrupt, Kate, I
Go
saw Shakespeare in the Park last week. It was a fantastic show, kind of a different take on it. It's kind of a beach blanket bingo type theme. It's modernized with all young actors in it. But do this, dress warmly, bring jackets, long pants, because it does get very chilly at night.
Good idea. Thank you, Len. So today is raining and Saturday is raining. Tomorrow's a nice day, but it is dropping down into the low 60s for the evening. It looks like a comfortable night, not too hot. Bring your coolers, bring your food, snacks, drinks. It will be a nice time. We'll be over on stage left by the big trees. We'll save a spot for everybody else who joins us. Thanks, Len. And I have nothing else to say. Or Steve has an announcement. That's what he's waiting for. I'm sorry, Steve. You said something before and I misunderstood. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you. Want to remind everybody that this Saturday we're doing Star Search again. And if we don't have smoke from Canada and if we don't have clouds, it'll be a good night to be out because it's also the peak of the Perseid meteor shower that night. So everybody come on out and you can either watch this meteors, which means you wouldn't have to listen to me yak, or you can enjoy things through the telescope. So please come on out.
The Perseids are so amazing. We love the Perseid meteor showers. And out here by the lake, there's less city lights, so you can see them beautifully. David, you're up. Your hand is raised, Dave.
Steve, did Richard Clark get a hold of you?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Okay, good. Good. I wanted to make sure he got a hold of you because he asked me how to get a hold of you. So, but then he went on Facebook and thank God you saw it. Thank you.
That's where I found it on Facebook. Yes. I got a hold of him.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah. I like to put a plug in for next next Saturday, the 19th. Kate, Steve, and I are in Margot's murder mystery. If anybody, how much are the tickets again, Kate? For
we'll get you the discounted dinner theater rate of $40. It's usually higher. My internet connection is unstable according to my Zoom. So Eric, you should close things out. I don't know what's happening on my end.
all right, with that, yeah, so come and watch us on the 19th at 7 o'clock. All right, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Have a good weekend and be well and be safe.